it's a pleasure to be here, and I always look when it comes to business, as in life, as in progress. It's all about giving, and it's all about being open to learn, and it's certainly about being around the right people, right? And uh, one thing I've certainly learned about business and about progress and about elevation, all of these things in life is the internal breakthroughs, are the most valuable. Yeah, there's the pragmatic part, of all the businessy stuff, all the clever stuff we do. But the internal breakthroughs as a person, as a human being, as an entrepreneur are what really get you them really big strides. And I'm not talking about the easy stuff that we're good at. I'm talking about the stuff that, triggers you. Maybe we need to listen more. We need to have more discipline. We need to sacrifice more. We need to discipline more. We need to have more time management. It's all of these things in a rounded way, on my journey that I've certainly seen that really, really helps us to attain our goals and get forward. Just say that because I think it's important. And I'm talking about the giving part, so I can flesh that out a little bit at what that really is, and it's, I've found it's not about giving my time, which is the most important resource to idiots basically who are going to waste it, or not value it or respect me. But certainly, the right people in the right way at the right time. This is really important. Time is our most valuable commodity. It really is more than money, more than contacts, more than any of these things. And you'll see the successful people, of course, who are down the path. It's time they're trying to get back. It's not money because they have money, right? They have the infrastructure built. It's actually time. So it's about valuing that and other people's as well. I've really seen. But look, let me get into another little bit. I'll say who I am. For those who don't know
Yeah.
who I am. I'm Stephen Gillen. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I had quite a dark, unfortunate history in organized crime. This is many, many years ago, of course. Went to prison for a long time. But, this is many, many years ago. Since then, I've transformed my life. In 2019, I was nominated for an International Peace Prize, things like that. But I've gone on to be successful in many fields. I'm a TV personality. I just finished a couple of weeks ago. I was on set with Orlando Bloom, Bryce Dallas Howard, Nick Mohammed. I've got another series coming out with Sean Bean at the end of the year. I just done one with Ross Camp, which is on Sky as well. That's just to give you just an understanding of the levels of TV and film I'm at now. This is my personal brand. I'm a best-selling author with Extraordinary, The Search for a Life Worth Living. Yeah, I'm a broadcaster on TV. People may have seen me there. I'm an expert in certain areas now. And I'm called upon for that. Excuse me. Behind that is my businesses, of course. I own studios, TV film studios. What we basically do, my core business is build global brands, and make people the go-to people in their industry. Now I'll go into that a little bit because what I've found, this is to give as much value as I can. I mean, I've worked with, God, I've lost count, over 500 plus personal brands, businesses. Some of the companies I work with are in the Nasdaq. They want their stock raised. All the way through to people starting, really. And so what I've found is, look, I don't care if you're selling toilet rolls in Outer Mongolia or you're building skyscrapers in Manhattan. A lot of the formulas are the same, but how they are put together bespokely for a business, for a brand, for a service, for a product, for a legacy, for a founder, for the market is where the real expertise is in winning and losing in business. I can definitely tell you that. And I can also tell you that the success or failure is in how the business functions off forged bespokely again for the same elements I'm talking about. If a business is not working right, it will be somewhere in there. I'll tell you that. You know, it could be the beating heart of the brand that needs to translate in many mediums, the messaging. Maybe the pricing systems structures are wrong, the product's wrong, the service is wrong, the customer journeys are wrong, the marketing's wrong, all of these things. But these things, I will say again, need to be really learned and shaped bespokely for a business or a product or a service or a founder or the market. This is where the true success is in migrating any business, diverse industries. It's kind of like opening a safe in a way. It's like one to the right, you know, four to the left, six to the right. It's that specific, really unlocking the success of a business and its model. And if you don't get it that specific, what happens? The door doesn't open. You know, this is why we get wonderful people on their journey, bless them. They say, oh, you know, I'm putting a ton of money into this thing. Oh, I'm working every hour that God sends. Oh, I know I've got something really great. Why isn't it happening for me? Well, just to tell people, really, that's why it's not happening. It's somewhere in the business model, you know, in the forging that isn't right, and that's a business engineering issue. Um, uh, this is what we do at Publicity Hound, my company, and I found what I found to really help people, and I had this myself at the start. Um, is, you know, when you start a business and you're starting up, of course, you can't be all things, all right? You know, you really can't. There's a lot of learning in it, a lot of falling down and getting up, right? You know, you have to get that model seamless and all that. That actually takes time and experience, you know, to engineer that, find the right people, build the right infrastructure, ecosystem, you know, all of this stuff. But what you find, the real challenge for businesses, you know, and this is why a lot of them fail, is because we have to kiss a lot of frogs before we get a prince or a princess, is one of them. You know, the other thing is that when we go to a certain, you know, a certain person, say we need a website, all right, it's a no-brainer. Oh, we need a website. We go and get a website. But maybe they're good at building websites, but you know, any of these services, people or services, you know, will only really deliver 70% of what we need in these services. This is the problem. It's not enough. It needs to be in the 90s, right? This is one of the problems that I've seen, you know, and I'll give what we do, you know, and the formation of my company here, solving that. It's the best example. Is look, what we do is a 360 of business. So we help people to monetize. We show them how to get their revenue streams up, which is the foundational stuff of any of any business. You need that first. We build brands by going for the money. Where's the money? You know, is it a brand? What does it need to become a brand? How big a brand can it be? You know, so when we do the business engineering and the, you know, into the monetization and the revenue stream, products, services, all that, that reveals what the brand should be. Once we've got the beating heart of the brand, which is not just your promise to your customers, but you know, your uniqueness, your unique selling point, what differentiates you in the market, so you can really position with influence and excel, you know, against all the proliferation of all these different people doing similar things, is that also translates into many mediums. And of course, we package a lot of people then, you know, in the visuals to really condense their message, because confused people don't buy. They just don't. There's always an and, an if, I need to come back around, all of this stuff. So one of the things is really condensing the message, really condensing the model with skill, really condensing the offerings. And then once we've got that, we really know how to migrate that brand into the right demographic audiences in a way, plug them into the mainframe. And of course, another thing that we've got there is a really big infrastructure of profile and PR development. And that's about the messaging. And it's a numbers game after that. You just can't fail not to succeed with the stuff that we do. But there is a very bespoke, tailored engineering process. I hope that helps in a rounded way, because it doesn't matter what industry you're in, diverse industries we work with. But, you know, we've really had to go down to really look at all the different segments of a business, you know, and the problems that they have in a business in migrating their products and their services, really becoming the go-to people. You know, so we've ascertained and really identified a lot of really factual, you know, metrics on this and what does not work for businesses, you know, and we're experts at translating that now, you know, and really working that. I mean, another thing that I'll say, which is really nice, I'll put this one in. is I'm getting engaged, as you know, Dan. Right. I'm getting engaged to the beautiful Nana Aquia. Of course, she's pretty much a household name here, Nana. The lovely Nana. But for those of you who don't know, actually meeting her later, and here's it. We've actually got a big engagement party, red carpet party on the 6th. I can't say where, it's top secret, but I can say that today, I'm meeting her today, and then we're going to meet Nigel Farage at 2:30 afterwards. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of stuff that we do, and we're, because of the work we do and who we're with and all that kind of stuff, the circles we're in, we're really, we're really in them circles to get things done. The kind of people will be at the party will be the owner of the Daily Mail, the owner of Hearst magazines, you've got your commissioning editors at their papers. You've got some really big names there, which I won't go into. But, we've got about 70 celebrities confirmed at that party, from politics, sports, TV, film, and business. We've got 400 people already RSPV'd. But this helps. I didn't just arrive there, as you know, Dan. I wasn't on the floor. I was 20 foot under it, guys. But it is really, chipping away, really just not thinking, just knowing that it's going to be that and only that. It has to be that. It's not going to be anything else. And then, of course, you've got your ducking, your diving, and all the appropriate ways in the middle, the grind, the this, the that. What is really important is the people that you're around. It's really, really important. I will say that it's quite a lonely journey what we do as entrepreneurs. But you know what? I'm really grateful and I'm really thankful because it saved my life. And when I look at everything, I don't know of anything as expeditious. No cancelling, no no big no big program, anything like that, whatever you want to call it. I can't think of anything as expeditious in growing developing a human being as as entrepreneurship, and owning a business as what we do, because it will really push and pull you, as we know, and stretch you in all the right ways. That's for sure. Emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, even, and in all of these ways. And it is just having that belief, and working away, and learning the tools of being that person, and becoming that being that you need to be to constantly keep getting to them different levels and living a good life. There's a thing about living a good life. There's a thing here about you really must be what it says on the tin. The shortcuts don't work, and we have to, I know sometimes in the interim, we have to do them anyway. Needs must and all that, I get that. But we learn quickly as we get down the path that that is not really, the way of it or what this is about, and then things, they fall away quickly because you must, it's about the quality of the person as well and the quality of the people around you, and just know anything is possible. There are no limits. I hope this helps a bit, any little bit of it in my own humble way, guys.
Cool. Thanks very much, Stephen. Yeah, so much useful information. And like you said, it's a case of being understanding and putting yourself out there and not having that imposter syndrome, which is obviously sometimes difficult to have, but having that confidence and knowing that there's a huge wealth of people out there, such a startup, stand-up community, yourself with your business, and you don't have to go at it alone, do you? You can really, you do have the support out there.
Yeah, look, it's a very lonely place. I mean, even with me and Nana, to be that, really, it gets lonelier, in a sense. And the further you go and the higher you go, especially in media, it's quite a lonely place. But look, that's fine, right? That's part of the learning and growth as a human being. But because it learns you again to really value. And then what it is, people, places, and things, and it is your inner circle, and it is the people, and it is the simple stuff, Dan. So it constantly learns you again. This stuff is for a reason. You have to trust the journey as well. And just, as I like to say, just play a flawless game of chess, Dad. That's what I
Exactly.
say. Let's play a flawless game of chess. It helps to focus the mind just on every move that needs to be done. Let's look at it. Let's really make sure to try that we make the best move on what we have in front of us, and stand by it. And keep learning.
Cool, perfect. Well, great advice there. And so I'll open the floor up to questions now for Stephen. Is there anybody here that would like to ask Stephen any questions? We've got time, so anything at all. It could be. It doesn't. Don't feel like it might be a silly question. It could be any question that you like.
Yeah,
No, no
absolutely.
questions are silly.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Cool, Maurizio, perfect. Fire away.
Oh,
Hi,
definitely.
Brooke.
It's a pleasure to hear you all. The question I have is, if you had to start from the beginning, right? How would you do it to make it all back again? How would you do it from the beginning?
That's a great question. I would get my foundational stuff right. I wouldn't let no one rush me. I would make sure if I build strong. I put the right people there, I put the right things there. You know, no matter how hard, that may be. Sometimes the slower we go, the quicker we get there. So build a very good base of people, places, and things. Really, and the best advice I always give to any entrepreneur, and I know it's hard because of the processor. You know, this processor, we have all these ideas of one good product or idea or whatever it is. Get that right first. Don't let your head take you into 20 other things that may be better. Get one good thing, get that right, get that working, get that turning, get that selling. Learn that business model, get that right, and then turn that around. That's what really successful entrepreneurs do. They get the model right first, reinforce it, add to it, and you can open it out from there. But get that first product, service, whatever it is, learn how to do that first with all the whistles and bells.
And that's the thing, is like the journey, like you get those customers from that first product, which then will be your customers for your second, your third product, your sub businesses, your referrals. Yeah, like you say, get that.
Absolutely.
If you're going to build a house, you get the foundations of your house well and built, sorted before you think about building an extension or conservatory or anything else, don't you? That's the key thing. Cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is really, really important. Even if it's working, if it's making £10, at least it's working. Say, okay, this is working. Find something that's working. Finesse that model. Add to it. It's the most expeditious way to learn.
Cool. That's great. Thanks very much. Any other questions from anybody? Anybody else? James, yeah.
As someone that I recognise the name, but I haven't come across you before. But I am very intrigued in the background, and it's probably, I know it's a story told 1,000 times, but what was that? What was the transition that took you from one very different place and background and spurred you into doing something, going in a completely different direction, which you're now following? You alluded to it earlier, but I'd love to know a little bit more about the longer story.
Yeah. Hi. That's a question they ask me all over the world. I have to say, what's the epiphany? What's the moment? And the answer is there were many kind of moments. There were a few different kind of lines in the sand, but I lived a very dark life, high and hard in that way. I was positioned for that in many ways. I mean, I was born here. I was taken over to Belfast as a 6-month-old with everyone killing each other. I was there until I was 9, and then I was brought back over here. So, I went through a succession of children's homes, brutal children's homes, and all that stuff. So, I was kind of positioned for that. So it's important to position ourselves for success, and not failure. But yeah, I got to the stage I knew I was worth so much more. I mean, I went to prison for a long time. I got 17 years. I've done 11 years, 9 months out of it. But I lived that life really, really high and hard, as I said. I had a good name, as such in that life. I didn't do anything wrong. I paid for everything that I'd done as I should have done. But when I come out, I wasn't beholden to anyone. I wasn't over a barrel to anyone. So that was my time to get my life back and my opportunity to change. And I had to change everything, absolutely everything, of course, and start from ground zero.
Oh yeah, it's a really interesting story. I've heard it obviously that in quite a bit of depth, and Yeah, like I said, it is really enlightening. Like I said, it gave you that time to reflect on what was important, and again, it probably gave you those kind of skills that you kind of went through, and like you said, when you went through that transition, like it's applicable in business, like those human skills, those respect skills, those understanding, those curiosity, all of that. That's all relevant to business, isn't it?
Look, it's in the forging for all of us. Don't underestimate anything that happens. The small stuff is actually the big stuff, Dan. All these little small things are actually the big stuff. Even the stuff that pushes and pulls us, it's in the forging, and you have to understand that the world is working for us, it's working for you, all of these things, and really imprint that into your mind.
Oh, thanks for that, Stephen, and great question, James, as well. It was great to hear. Neil, you have a question.
Yeah. Hi, Stephen. How you doing?
Hello, how you doing, my friends? Yeah.
Yeah, good. I just say I've had the pleasure of I worked, or rather kind of got Stephen's advice on my business. Found his kind of inputs very interesting. And I'll also, Steve, I'll give you a plug for your book as well, because it's like
Thank you. I'm really honoured that you
so
you've read it. Thank you.
yeah, no, indeed. So James, if you want to know about Stephen's history, it's available in paperback. I don't know if you do hard copies.
Yeah, it's an interesting story, I have to say. There's a lot in there. I think that is valuable, and that was the thing for me. It's not, it's about me or anything like that. It was, it's very healing for me and all that stuff to do it. But I'm quite sure, obviously, that there are, a lot of lessons in there, and that was a real driver for me doing that book, so I could translate at what it was and what it wasn't.
Cool. Yeah, and like I said, I still need to have a read of that. I've not read it, so apologies for that in advance. But it's on my list. It's on my reading list. So yeah, I'm super excited to see that. So yeah, I'm guessing it's available on Amazon and all the normal places. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You can Google me. It's really easy. There's just so much there will come up. Stephen with the PH, Gillen, obviously Gille. And it's the easiest way. There's just so much there, and people can kind of go from there, I guess.
Cool. Perfect. Well, is there any other questions before we round off? We've got a few minutes left. If there's no more questions, then we can end it now. But if not, last opportunity to ask Stephen anything at all. All good. Cool. Well, I just want to say, yeah, final thoughts. Yeah, really appreciate that. There's a lot to take away, and yeah, we're obviously you'll be mentioned on obviously on LinkedIn later, and if anybody does want to get in touch, obviously you've got Stephen's details there through the chat. If anybody wants to listen back to this, it'll be on the Circle platform, Standup Circle platform afterwards. So yeah, so have a look. So yeah, just want to say thank you for everybody's time today. Appreciate you joining these calls. They're really important for the community to understand and listen. Knowledge is power. So the more calls you attend, the more you learn, the more you listen, the more stories you hear. It can only make you a better person, make your businesses better. So appreciate that. And also thank you so much for your time, Stephen. As always, it's been a pleasure to have you here. Any final thoughts?
Thank you. Look, it's my pleasure. Not at all. Look, we need the right people. It's very important, obviously, right? It changes everything. So, look, very happy to talk to anyone, about what we do. I'm always really, really interested in people and their journey, and what they're doing, to really help them and, get them into our ecosystem and vice versa. And really, that's what it's about, So, I look forward to meeting anyone and talking to anyone out there who wants to have a chat, Dan. You know that.
Perfect. And like I said, we've chatted a lot and you've given good advice, and same to Neil as well. So yeah, really appreciate that. So it's definitely
Well,
worth
my
it.
friends, we're always there. This is the thing, that will go on and on. It's important.
Exactly. Cool.
All
Well,
right then.
so, well, thank you, everybody. Have a lovely rest of your Wednesday. Have a lovely rest of your week. And I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon. So enjoy the rest of your day, guys.